Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Wyant, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Applied Software GRAITEC Group. You're invited to join our conversation to model the future of construction innovation and the digital transformation adventure of this great industry. My guest today is Hamzah Shanbari. He is the Director of Innovation at Haskell. With a focus on innovation and digitization, he is committed to improving the construction industry through the use of some cutting-edge technology. He is always looking for ways to push the boundaries of what is possible in the industry. Welcome to the show, Hamzah.
Thank you for having me, Todd. I'm excited.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So let's start with your background. What brought you into the world of construction?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for the quick intro, Hamzah Shanbari. I've been with Haskell for a little bit over 7 years now, coming up to 8. And it all started, I think I mentioned that story maybe once before, which is talking about like childhood, right? And then where I grew up is like there was a house that was being built right next to us. And it was fascinating. I was like 8, 9 years old and just constantly looking through the window to see what the contractor is doing, what they're up to next. So that always kind of like piqued my curiosity. Um, but then when I went after high school, I said, I'm going to start architecture, right? I'm a designer. Yes, that's part of it, right? And I go in there and I'm like, yeah, that's quickly. I realized that that's not for me. So that's kind of like pivot to the construction management role. Um, Finished my master's and a PhD from University of Florida. Again, focus on construction management. Dissertation was about enhancing construction management education using video games, and then using the technologies. And I'm talking about like 2008, 2009. Uh, Things started really wrapping up with BIM and Revit and the use of BIM in general. And that kind of also piqued my curiosity more. So I started, dabbling more in that and getting to be as much of an expert as I could possibly be back then. And that's kind of what started my journey here at Haskell, which is like that BIM role that kind of transitioned into the innovation and looking at all these amazing technologies that we have in the space right now.
Yeah, very nice. So what do you think's been the biggest evolution over the last 15 years? There's been a lot of change happening, but what are some of the big markers for you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of changes for sure. I think BIM and having that 3D model really enabled so much more layers of different technologies that can enhance on that and can have, better communication, like going from design intent to the person in the field that's actually putting the work in place. I think that just opened the whole floodgate of different technologies and things that the workforce can take a look at and understand the design much better than just looking at the carbon copy blueprints that are just in 2D, and somebody's always trying to kind of wrap their head around what's going to be built, and then also what are the other trades and where are the conflicts and all that stuff, because nobody really cleared any of that stuff prior, right? So I think BIM and VDC in general kind of paved the way to a whole slew of technologies that just makes everything better, not only from going from the office to the field, but also the other way around, right? Is like reporting and comparison and actually, reality capture and making sure that you're installing things in the correct way and the right way, transparency, making sure that the owner, the architect, designers, everybody is seeing what's being built, right? And
Yeah.
comparing that to the model and to the design intent, and not just have everybody have their own idea of what the design with the building should look like. And then we're all surprised at the end. It's like, wait a minute, I thought it would look different.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what you're really getting at there is breaking down the silos of not only communication, but on the design side and the free flowing of information, which historically construction has
Yeah.
not done a great job of tearing down the walls and busting up those silos. But where do you
Absolutely.
see kind of a gut check of where the industry is right now on helping to bust up those silos?
I think just AI right now is becoming the big thing, right? And the Chat GPT, everybody's like looking at that. Is like, hey, wait a minute, what can I do with that? how can
Yeah.
that be applied to what we're doing in the AAC industry, right? Because we don't want to be excluding anybody, right? AAC, architecture, engineering, and construction in general. But I think that would be the next layer, right? So if you have the design model and everybody's seeing the same thing and understanding the same thing, and we're running all our, clashes from early on and understanding all the conflicts and then resolving all of that, I think AI is going to be the next big frontier where it's going to enable a lot more. So you're talking about automation, robotics, all of that other stuff. They're going to have to get the data from somewhere, right? And that's, I think, where the design model is going to be that central repository of everything that's going to go into the building or the
Mm.
facility, and that's going to enable a whole lot of fleet of robots to execute. Not that they're, again, I don't want to set the alarms for anybody. It's like, this is going to take away my job. No, this is going to enable you to do more, more productive, safer, all of that stuff, and you can capitalize on it if you choose to use it the right way.
Yeah. Maybe let's double click on that, because I think that is a common refrain when AI starts
Yeah,
getting brought up as, oh, it's going to take away all these different jobs and nobody's going to be working, and we'll have a whole host of issues and problems with that. Why, in your opinion, is that not true? What's the myth there?
the myth is AI is still not, again, still not foolproof. It's not like something you're just gonna give it a prompt and it's going to do something fully 100% accurate and everything's going to be great. No, there's still that layer of the human interaction that they're going to look at it, that context that sometimes the computers miss, right? Or don't understand, don't connect the dots as it
Mm-hmm.
should be, as because us humans, we understand the contextual world around us much better. So there's always going to be that level of human interactions with it. And I think
Yeah.
it's not going to be on its own. It's never going to get to like being, doing something on its own at all, like to 100% degree. There's always going to be that human part that guides it through the process of whatever it is. And then the outcome, the output of that always have to be supervised, looked at and checked, double checked sometimes before we go to implement something. And what that's going to enable is, something that might take somebody a week to accomplish, they can do it in half a day because they have access to this tool that's just enabling them to do more faster, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that just cuts off the time to do the same things. It enables anybody to be more productive, to produce more, and not have, again, you don't want to just go into your bubble and say, no, this isn't going to affect me, I'm fine, and just be there, and it's going to come. It's absolutely coming.
Yeah. No, I agree on what you just said there on kind of the role of AI. In my mind, it helps reduce the amount of mundane task, if you will, and allows for people to do what they do best, which is think creatively, think in context, think of the broader kind of implications and kind of where it's heading. And I
Yeah.
think that's really something cool that we won't have to necessarily do all the, again, I mean, those mundane kind of details of it. We can automate
Yeah,
that and move on to more complex challenges.
absolutely. Yeah.
Let's pivot a bit and really focus in on creating the culture of innovation, because all the cool new tech doesn't really mean anything unless you have the culture in place at the company to really make that flourish. So how do you go about creating a culture of innovation in construction?
Oh, that's a big question. uh, we've been at it right now. So DisruptTech is a separate LLC, wholly owned and operated by Haskell. We're part of Haskell, but we're a separate group for several reasons that we don't need to go into details here. But we've been at this for 5 years now. We started in 2018, um, and we're just getting to, we're just starting to peel at the surface of what an innovative culture can actually achieve.
Hmm.
It's not easy, and it really does take a long time. But it enables, in the way that we're kind of like looking at it and working towards it. is giving the employees a platform, giving them an outlet to express their ideas. A lot of, the corporate world, if I'm sure you've seen it firsthand, a lot of the listeners have, is here's your job. I need you to do this, and I need you to do it by this date. Go. And it just keeps coming, right? But creating a culture of innovation is enabling them to say, wait a minute, yes, I can get this done by this date. But if I do it this way, I can get it done earlier or, better or more accurate, whatever it is, right? And just giving them that voice, you wouldn't even believe how exciting it makes the workforce is. And people get excited just because we listen to their idea, even if it was crazy, idea that might not even be implemented. Just listening to it and actually kind of like dissecting it and going to the root causes of the problem and understanding how we build a solution for that. It really is refreshing, and we get people really excited just talking about it. Not to mention the people that submitted ideas for us to kind of like look at and evaluate, and then we went all the way to prototyping and a patent as well. So you get the best of both worlds, right? Ideas that might have not gone anywhere, but got people excited because, they have a voice. Somebody is listening to their ideas and their pain points. But then the other hand of it is like somebody's idea actually made it into a product that is patentable, that is on the market.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. How do you deal with the change management of it? I think that's a huge hurdle in a lot of this, especially if the company didn't necessarily have that kind of innovative approach beforehand. How do you go about helping encourage others to embrace that change and really pairing it with failure isn't necessarily a bad 4-letter word? That it's sometimes it's even actually a good thing to fail.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started, again, it's like everybody looked at us as like, are you looking to replace my job? I mean, what are you doing? Why are you asking me all these questions about what I do? I'm like, no, I'm just trying to get to know you and what you do. I'm really not having any malicious intent or anything.
It's very friendly.
It is very friendly. Yeah, we were just here to listen, right? And that's how we framed it. Is like, we are here to listen to any issues that you might have, any frustrations, anything that you do day in and day out, and it's the same thing, and it's always mundane, and it's always the same thing, and it's like you can't wait to get done and just go home, right? It's like, what? Tell us those things, right? So we can find solutions for you. And of course, a lot of people, took it by like, gosh, that's just a fad. It's just something that, these guys are going to talk a little bit and then they're just going to go away. But the more we talked, the more people that bubbled up and said, yes, I have a real problem statement here that I think I have an idea of how to solve it. And what we did is we created an annual kind of event around it. So we called it a Big Pitch, which is kind of like Shark Tank style event, where we get anybody to submit any ideas, however crazy or small it is. Just give us ideas, right? No ideas are bad ideas. And we go through them, and when we talk to each person that submitted an idea, and we go drill down through, root cause analysis, what's the real need of that problem statement, and then how do we solve it? We pick the top 5. We get them to present on top of, in front of the executives, and one of them gets, a $10,000 check. They get like a big prize out of it and funding to get their idea to the finish line. And then the next year, and we started this in 2020. And the next year we come back with, hey, remember the winners from last year? Here's where our idea at right now. Here's how much time and effort it's saving them. And it's amazing to see that. And the more we do that, the more we highlight the wins, the more people get excited, right? Yeah. And we start getting more and more ideas. But to your point, failure is absolutely a big part of it. So we can't just get from an idea to an execution and just like, yeah, it works. No, it's like first version usually always fails. in so many regards, right? It might deliver, like, that's what I call it, minimum viable product. It might deliver the very specific thing that you are looking to deliver, but there might be some side effects. There might be some things that can be tweaked that fails on different areas. So that's something that we're always also highlighting. and sharing. And we write all these reports, and we kind of try to share them internally. This is like one of our reports that this is what we did, like especially for like a pilot project for a company, for a technology company out there.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them work, and that's great. And we go to scaling, right? And a report says scale, but some of them don't. Some of them, don't work with the tech stack that we have, or the user experience wasn't well enough, or there's something, whatever it is that didn't work. We still write the report. We still highlight it. We still put it out there, telling the people, this is what we did. This is why it worked. This is why it didn't work. And how do we fix it? How do we go better from here? So
Yeah.
it's a constant battle, so to say, between between the status quo and where we're trying to go, how we getting better.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I love the transparency aspect of it and the willingness to share the stories. I think a lot of times the kind of success stories can fall flat because you're only talking about the success side, but any great success had failures along the way. So that helped really create the success in the end. So you got to be willing to take time and get uncomfortable and talk about the failures and what missed the mark and why, figure out how can you fine tune that and tweak it.
Yeah, and it's only a failure if you stopped.
Mm.
Believe it or not, the story is always like that, right? Something fails, it's only a failure if you stop. If you learn from that failure and you try again and you keep getting better and iterating, you're gonna get to success eventually.
Yeah, I like that. I'm writing that line down. It's a good line. So how do you take the time to debrief and have that kind of self-reflective time?
A lot of projects that we have, it's again, we've been doing this for 5 years, so we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And in some projects, I think we as DisruptTech is like, when I say we, DisruptTech is kind of like the innovation arm and then also investment arm. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to drive this technology adoption. So when we find a technology and we get it in front of the users, we have to get their buy-in first. Otherwise, nobody's going to do anything with it, right? So we have to sell them. So I become the salesperson, the marketing person for that technology company internally. And once I sell them on it, we try to take the backseat, right? So we get them onboarded, we get them trained on it, and then we follow up every week or so, every other week, maybe sometimes, just to keep a pulse on it, right? But we try to take the backseat, saying that you got this, you can handle it, and that's another big factor of creating an innovation culture. It's fighting those drivers, those people that are enthusiastic, that are tech savvy, that are always looking for the best thing, right? If you find those, they'll help you achieve that by spreading the word, by talking about it. By the more of those you find, and I assure you, they're in every company, everywhere. You just have to find them and identify them and put them to use, right, for the betterment of the company. But part of what we try to do, like we failed early on, is not only keeping track of some of these technology pilots or projects that we're trying to put out there, because again, I want to be in the backseat. I don't want to be the driver of this. I want somebody from the project team to drive it, to get it to the finish line, so I can get better, more honest feedback on what they thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that we found is, like, if you wait until the end of that pilot project, you're going to lose 70 to 80% of the actual feedback, because it's just gone by now. You know, it's like people kind of scrub it away and just move on. They might not remember the actual, issues that they encountered, or turnover is a real issue for a lot of different companies. So that person that was driving the project might have left. So now I have no source to go to and say, hey, what did you think of this? So we found it's always important to get that feedback constantly. So whenever we have that pulse check, is like, let me know what you think, and start asking very direct, specific questions about this feature and that specific things and this work, and jotting them down, right? It's like that's something that I can't speak of, highly enough, which is documentation, making sure that everything is documented. Because and again, that was part of my failure early on. Is like, yeah, I'll remember that. Yeah, he told me all the things. I'll remember it when I'm ready to write the report 12 months from now. Yeah, no, I can't remember any of that. Documentation in a structured way is super important, and that's why we have like our dedicated CRM within the company that we're tracking everybody that we worked with from the technology world and internally within Haskell. And
Mhm.
what product did we work with them on, and then what is their feedback? And it's like a recurring thing. There's like a notes there that you can just constantly populate. That makes it so much easier later when you're coming back to write the report. Is like you have all the information now. You just need to distill it and compile it in one report.
Yeah. No, I think that's so good. The continuous check-ins and having those feedback loops early and often, because by the end,
Yeah,
you're exactly right. You either have totally hyped up something that was probably pretty small, or you are downplaying it because you got through it and you're like, oh, it wasn't that big a deal in the end, but it was a pain point
yeah,
during it. And yeah, I think it's wise advice for sure. So at Haskell, you kind of operate in three buckets, if you will: the invest, invent, and innovate. How do you
right.
balance those perspectives and shift your mindset when when need to, and not get kind of bogged down in one of those?
Oh, they are separate, but also they are very, very connected. I didn't even realize how connected these three eyes are. So to me, the way that we looked at it, and we have it like Venn diagrammed and all, which is like innovate. Innovate is the biggest circle, right? Because innovation is such a nebulous and big word that might not mean the same thing to a lot of different people, right? But to me, innovation is just the mindset to get better at whatever it is, right?
Mm,
Whether it's using technology or not, it's just a process. It could be. It's an innovation, right? So that's to me the biggest kind of bucket of collecting ideas and pain points and different solutions that we're seeing from the market. All of that go into that bucket of innovation, right? And then it silos down, and we have different filters of how do we look at it, and which filter, which lens do we look at it, right? And then it goes either in the invest mode, right? So if we see a technology that is promising, that we see high potential in, and we try to get quick feedback internally from end users, that becomes an investment opportunity that can make the company, good returns in the long term. Invent is if I have it, like again in the big bucket of innovation, if I found a problem statement that has no connections to the outside ecosystem, that's when I put that hat on, right? Again, it's all about switching the hats between the three different eyes. And we go into invent mode, R&D mode, right? Whether it's software, where it's hardware, we kind of try to drill down into with the root cause, come up with, spit out so many different solutions, right? Again, no idea is a bad idea, especially in in design thinking and ideation. Um, and then go start talking to people that have solved a similar problem, right? And it's again, there is no really clear distinct between the three. It's really just all interconnected, and it's always talking to each other in one way or another, if that makes any sense.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think they all. I see how they all play nicely together
Yeah.
for sure, and that's where the power comes in, is having those three different buckets, because they all for sure play into each other. What kind of personas do you typically kind of pull in to the ideation group? Like what kind of cross section of the company has a role?
Everyone, we really try to be open and inclusive to everyone in any department, right? But what we're seeing the most from is, you're talking about assistant project managers. Those are, the hungry guys and gals that are just joining the force, um, and they're going to become a project manager in the future, right? Those are the people I think that really resonate a lot with a lot of the things that we're trying to accomplish, and they have so many great ideas because I don't know if you're familiar with an APM role, or I think like in different companies they call them like project engineer, which is like
Mm.
the entry level. they get a lot of the grunt work, right, of a project. It's like, here's a list
Put
of
your dues in.
700 subcontractor. Go sort them and do something with them. So they deal with that, with those pain points early on. And also they're young and they're from a different generation. So it really resonates with them, and we work really well with them. But Haskell is different from a lot of the different, companies in our top 100, in a sense that we're design build, right? We're not just a GC. So we have architects, we have designers, engineers, and some of those earlier, engineers in their journey, also they're super excited about such technologies and how do I design things faster, better, more accurate the first go round, right? How do I turn around, the PI issue, the permit issue drawing set very quickly? I don't want to, spend 2 days trying to print PDFs. It's like those are the people that we're really seeing a lot of traction with, and they are excited to get in the room and talk about problem statements and ideas and solutions and what might work, what might not. We love working with our superintendents. Superintendents are super awesome, and they are really the main person in any job site that's going to make or break the technology. They're really hard to get in, like to get some time with them, because they're always like super busy. So we can't really get them into a room just to kind of ideate and talk about problem statement. But when we get them like bought in on a technology or solution, they're usually our biggest drivers of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the young generation that you were mentioning there they bring so much energy and passion to it. That's really good for construction. I'm going to steal a line from Amy Marks that she talks about the expected experience of construction. And I think for so long, construction has kind of operated in two modes. You go into your personal life and everybody has their phone right by them, and we expect to, track everything along the way and have very detailed descriptions of everything that we're looking for. But then when we come into construction and we put our construction hat on our personal hat, we're like, oh yeah, we can email this person to call this person to then, text this person to try to find the information maybe on a piece of paper somewhere. We would never put up with that in our personal life. And the younger generation coming into the industry, I think is helping to point this out and call it out of like, why is it working like this? This makes no sense. Can we please streamline this and create some efficiency here?
Absolutely. But we're also, so I'm gonna play a pun on your podcast name. We're also trying to bridge the gap when it comes to the knowledge, right? Because these new generation, they have the enthusiasm and the tech savviness and all that stuff that they bring with them, but they don't have the knowledge that the superintendent that's been doing this for 30 years have, right? So how do we bridge that? And that's one of the winner ideas of Big Pitch in 2021, which is like having a centralized lessons learned platform that can drive that knowledge, right? And compile all the knowledge that is shared from across the company, from everybody in the company that did anything in any project. What went wrong? What went right? How do we capitalize on that? How do we put it all in a structured database that the next generation, when we create a new project, and now we're adding a layer to it in AI, is it pulls up all the relevant information based on what project type or project size, location, all this stuff. It's like, here are the things that you need to be aware of that might go wrong. Here are the things that went right in the previous projects and you might want to do again. So we're super excited about that. We worked with GRAITEC and developed Precogs. That's the lessons learned platform that we are rolling out internally, and GRAITEC is bringing it to market as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you're exactly right that the companies like you guys that are being able to find a way to pair the knowledge of experience with the enthusiasm and passion of innovation. Yeah, that's where the magic is happening, because you have to have both. You can't fall on one side or the other, or you're trying to drive a car with only wheels on one side. You're not going to get very far. Yeah, more than agree. What do you see as kind of the next trend coming down in the industry to help in the industrialization of construction?
I think robots are going to take over. Not in a Skynet way, but more
Terminator's
of
coming for us, huh?
they're not coming for us. They're coming to help us. They're gonna take away a lot of this unsafe jobs or tasks, so to say.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of work that happens in like leading edges or elevated workplaces that we don't need a person there anymore. I guess like with the technology that's coming, we're not going to need a person to be up 30, 40, maybe 100 foot up in the air in a small bucket trying to weld or bolt something together.
Hmm.
There are robots that can do that. And then, again, robots are not going to take away jobs. They are going to assist in making jobs more efficient and safer. That's more important.
Hmm.
And one way that we're looking at it, we're talking to a couple of companies that are tackling this head on, which is like the robotic arm. It takes so much effort and programming to get it to do the job correctly, right? But once you teach it, I mean, it gets better, of course, in machine learning and all that stuff. But what if we take that out of the equation? You don't need to teach it everything. You teach it like the basics, and then you have the person controlling it, right?
Hmm.
So now you're up in like 100 foot, but instead of the person being up 100 foot on a bucket, you send the robotic arm in the bucket, and the person is below on the ground at safety, controlling the bucket and seeing what it's seeing and controlling it and doing all of that skilled
Yeah.
labor aspect, but remotely, right? So
Yeah.
it might start with being on the ground right next to the unit, but then later, who knows? It might be like you're one skilled operator that's doing 3 different job sites across the country from your home.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that world. Well, how do people find out more information on what you all are doing and connect with you?
It's a website. I always like to say, go to disruptech.com, but good luck spelling it because it's funky. Uh, but if you go to Haskell.com, I mean, you can probably find your way around in the maze and navigate to innovation and then find Disruptech. Or if you Google Hamzah Shanbari, I'm sure I'll be the first that gets up there. LinkedIn, I'm very big on LinkedIn, so find me, connect with me. I'm be more than happy to share additional information or answer any questions you may have.
Awesome. Well, last question for you. If I could give you all power and you could snap your fingers to innovate one thing in construction, what would you pick to innovate?
Oh, that's a good question, and I have a very good answer for it that I've been getting a lot of negative feedback on. I don't know. To me, so if it's one thing that I can snap my finger and solve, is RFIs.
Hmm.
I believe that RFIs should not exist. I just really think RFIs are an unnecessary thing.
Yeah.
And it's only existing because the design is not clear enough, is not complete enough, is not reviewed enough, right? So that's, I think, the
Hmm.
next layer of AI that we're seeing is with that design review and checks and balances and making sure that all the answers are there, whether in the
Hmm.
model, whether in the drawings, whether in specifications. If all the answers are there, then there's no need for RFIs. You don't need to ask the designer what they meant by this because it should all be there.
It's there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
that's
I think
one
that
thing
makes
that
a
really,
ton of
really
sense.
bugs me.
Yeah. A perfect world, the model theoretically contains all the data and all the information that you need to build the building. I
Theoretically,
know we're
yeah,
not there. That's the perfect world. Hence why we have RFIs.
right.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good one. Well, Hamza, thanks so much for taking the time and coming on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.